Hello, everyone. We've got the great Josh Tickell, filmmaker and author. He's the co founder of Big Picture Ranch with us. We're going to have a super important discussion that I'm excited about. I hope you won't miss it.
Welcome to the Your Mark on the World show with your champion of social good, Devin D. Thorpe.
Josh, welcome to the show.
Devin, thanks for having me.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. My gosh, it's such an honor. We're excited to talk about the great things that you're doing. I just finished reading your book, Kiss the Ground, and was really moved by that. I'm a vegan, and this gave me a whole new way of looking at the world. It's not the cow's fault. So, Josh, tell us a little bit about your work. How would you introduce yourself?
Well, as you said, I'm a filmmaker and author. My focus is on environmentalism. So we're working on our 7th film, my wife and I, and they've all been on environmental subjects. Kiss the Ground, as you mentioned, is a book first, but it's also a movie that's coming out next year. And it really shows us how to reverse global warming. Small challenge that humanity faces with climate change. And we take that on a film and really detail, how do we do that? How do we stop having the conversation about what's wrong, which seems to be where we're stuck, and start having a conversation about what do we do about it?
It's amazing as you drill down on regenerative agriculture, not to steal your thunder, but it's incredible its potential for sequestering carbon. Even, and this is what surprised me, even with animals as part of the picture.
I think the only way to, what we talk about in Kiss the Ground is the incredible sequestration potential of soil. Worldwide, we have about 10 billion acres of agriculture. So that's a lot of land. When you total it up, somewhere in the range of 10 tons an acre is what we can store carbon-wise. That may be an average. That's a lot of carbon. We can't do that anywhere else. We can't put more in the oceans. We can't put more in the atmosphere. So we're really looking at what is the number one way that we can take the 1,000 gigatons of CO2 that we've put into the atmosphere since the birth of the Industrial Revolution and put it somewhere. Turns out soil's a really good place to do that. So when you look at that dynamic, you start to realize, how do we build soil on 10 billion acres? Oh, ideally, we'd use compost, but there's no way to make that kind of quantity of compost. So we're going to look at the best compost creators ever made. Animals, namely cows. They really do take grass and create compost. They create the nutrients necessary to build soil. So not only is it not the cow's fault, but for better or worse, we can't really build the kind of soil carbon we need without them.
It's the factory farming, it's the tilling, it's our bad practices, if I understand correctly from your book, that are creating the problem. That the soil isn't sequestering carbon naturally, right? It's the way we use it.
Right. If you look at the way we've designed our agriculture, we've designed it around factory farming, these things called CAFOs, confined animal feed operations. Anyone who lives in California has probably seen one. You just drive up I-5. There's a huge one. So these things emit a tremendous amount of greenhouse gases.
But the actual, if you put a cow in the right circumstance, in fact, it is an important part of sequestering carbon, even though the way we are currently raising cattle, by and large, does the opposite. It produces tremendous amounts of methane that is exacerbating climate change, right?
Yeah, basically what studies are showing is that in one scenario, you've got a climate change disaster. That's the current factory farm model. In another scenario, not just grass-fed, we're talking about mob grazing, so moving the cattle constantly. They always have to be moved for this to work because that's the only way to really create the soil regeneration that's necessary. In that scenario, you have sequestration. So in one scenario, we've got sequestration. In the other scenario, we've got emissions. Pretty big no-brainer what we need to do, especially when you look at the millions of head of animals that we raise in the United States. We need to get them out of factory farms. We need to make factory farms illegal, no questions about it, very soon.
You also looked at tilling, and I was surprised at the dramatic effect that tilling versus not tilling has on the soil. What can you tell us about that?
Well, tilling is very simply breaking the soil, and when you break soil, you release the carbon. So we till most of the worldwide agricultural soils, and we're releasing tremendous amounts of carbon.
Now, you're also working on a new book and film about revolution. Tell us about that.
Well, that book and film is called The Revolution Generation, and the book's already out. It's on Amazon. It's in bookstores. Really what it looks at is the political power of the millennial generation. Most people don't realize this, but the millennial generation is the largest voting bloc in U.S. history. So a tremendous amount of power. Most of that power right now is squandered. This is a generation that's over 50% independent, but there's nowhere for that 50% to really put their votes. So we've got a lot of energy, a lot of potential, and the forward motion is stagnated due to the system. So the revolution generation looks at how can we create new systems that are going to empower young people to make a difference.
Well, it is an exciting prospect to think about getting a whole generation of people, especially such a large generation, to really begin to engage in finding a solution, especially to climate change. It's such a daunting problem that has, it's not new. It's stunning when we think about it, Josh, but before you were born, we understood the science of climate change, and yet here we are in 2018, and we have a Washington leadership that is all but ignoring the problem. Do you see the millennial generation as the solution?
I think that not only are they the only potential solution, they're our only potential hope. And the reason is we have become, Generation X and baby boomers, we've become extremely ideologically infatuated when it comes to issues of science. So if our party believes XYZ, we believe XYZ, even if that is scientifically not true. So we have become a party before science society. And that's what happens to empires before they fall. What's different about the millennial generation is regardless of whether they're Republican, Democrat, or independent, their majority, vast majority, 70 to 80% believe that climate change is human-made. Well, that's the first step to being able to solve the problem, is understanding the nature of the problem.
Yeah, it's such a great point. Well, Josh, you've had a remarkable career since you started driving around in your van converting oil, the frying oils into diesel fuel for your nationwide environmental tour back in the 90s. You've done a lot. As you reflect on that, what are you most proud of having accomplished?
Well, it's funny. I don't see that this is a destination. My work is part of a journey. My job is to engage more people in that journey, to get more people involved. I am doing a college tour with the Revolution Generation right now, showing the rough cut of the movie at colleges, giving them the information from the book. And what I see is a young group of people who really want access. They want access to the kind of empowering information that the Revolution Generation conveys. And that's, there's no moment to say, well, boy, I'm so proud we've accomplished all these great things. It's now it's time to engage the next generation and the next generation and the next generation. It just, the work doesn't stop. So I guess if I'm proud of something, it's not giving up.
Yeah, well, that is an important lesson. As you think about lessons, what's the most important thing you would take away from your career over the last 20 plus years working on environmental issues?
Most important thing I take away. You know, real change requires people who are involved in a long game. So if you're looking to change an industry, if you're looking to change the world, you've got to be involved in a long game kind of thinking. And if you look at things like, wow, look at Steve Jobs, look at Bill Gates, look at Mother Teresa, look at people who've made a big difference in our world. They took the long game approach. And I think that's something that's a little bit dangerous with our current app kind of mentality is, well, we've got to, you've got to create a company. It's got to be incredibly successful. It's got to happen fast. The real stuff, I'm with my kids here at Disneyland today. And think about Walt Disney. He played a long game to sort of create this fantasy world and engage people in. And that game is still playing out. There's people all over the world wearing those Mickey Mouse ears. So the big lesson for me is change can occur quickly, but it occurs quickly in an inflection point. After you've been playing a game for a long time, there will be a moment where you'll see an opportunity. You'll see a moment where you can go, oh, that's our moment to dive in. You can only get to those moments if you've been playing the game for a while.
Josh, you've been doing this for a while now, but I want you to reflect back on your beginnings, because you made a decision to take action, to do something significant. And really, that what I'm getting at is that we need a lot of people to join you in your effort. But why did you feel moved to take action? What motivated you?
These are some deep questions. What motivated me to take action? I was in my 20s at the time that I really began this journey. And I think low risk is a big part of it. When you are young, you don't have much to lose. You try really radical things sometimes. That was part of it. A sense of adventure was part of it. What could possibly go wrong? Of course, you find the answer to that question pretty quickly. And then a desire to sort of tilt windmills, that Don Quixote sense of, well, of course we can change the world. Anything's possible, which is great about being young, because you kind of have that desire to change the world and you think that you can, and that's how you change the world, with the perception that you can.
Yeah, that's a really incredibly important point, Josh. I appreciate you sharing that. What is your superpower?
Well, I think part of my superpower is, you asked me, why did I dive in and do those things I did? And I think there's a part of my superpower that's memory loss or naivete. I keep thinking that, this one will be much easier. This time it's going to be much better. So I forget the struggle and I get into the sort of fantasy or the great feeling of like, how's the future going to be when we accomplish that? And to some degree, that's good, because if all we remember is the difficulty and the struggle, we never accomplish big things. So part of my superpower is forgetting all the negativity and tuning out the negativity that other people have, because I'm in my 40s. I have 2 children. My wife and I work together on our films and our projects. And people go, well, that's never going to work. You can never, a lot more now that we're grown-ups than when we were kids. And I just tune it out. I'm just like, you're just on the wrong radio dial. You're just on the wrong frequency for me. So part of my superpower is just being able to focus on the positive stuff, the positive possibility.
Oh, fantastic. Well, Josh, I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. I know you're busy. I know you're taking time away from your family. Before you go, would you take just a minute and tell people how they can learn more about your work, your filmmaking at Big Picture Ranch, and how they can connect with you personally?
Absolutely. So easiest website to remember is my name, joshtickell.com. My last name is spelled T as in Tom, Ickell. So joshtickell.com. If you're on Facebook, just type in facebook.com/EcoDude, all one word, Eco, ECODUDE, EcoDude. So facebook.com/EcoDude. And then, of course, you can just search for Big Picture Ranch in Google. Our website will come up as well as our Vimeo. And then the Revolution Generation is revolutiongeneration.us. That's the newest project. So lots of great resources there for folks.
Well, fantastic, Josh. We look forward to connecting with you again in the future. Thanks for being with us today, and we wish you every success in the great work you're doing.
Thank you, Devin. Great conversation. Appreciate it.
All righty. Now, let's do some good.
Thank you for listening. Devin Thorpe's mission is to end extreme poverty, improve global health, and mitigate climate change before 2045 by finding and sharing the stories of those who are doing the most good. You can join with other listeners to accelerate Devin's mission by visiting helpdevin.org right now.